Welcome back to My Vision News. Three news stories. First one is from Nairobi, Kenya. Another a session of talks between TPLF and Ethiopian federal government is starting in Kenya. What is going to be discussed? Who is participating? Secondly, 2 days ago, I reported that some meetings were held in Addis Ababa, Ethiopian capital. And the purpose was to bring about political change in Tigray, to prop up a new political alternative force in Tigray, PP-backed political force in Tigray. We have more details for you. It seems that Abraham Ballet is spearheading this effort. Thirdly, viewers, in October in Djibouti, Army's military camp was attacked by FRUD. Front for Restoration of Unity and Democracy is a splinter armed group in Djibouti. In that attack, 7 soldiers of Djibouti's military were killed, 6 were kidnapped by FRUD. Since then, efforts have been underway for the release of these 6 Djibouti soldiers. Ethiopia has secured the release of these 6 soldiers. Does FRUD have its basis in Ethiopia? Firstly, viewers, another round of talks between Tigray People Liberation Front and Ethiopian federal government is starting in Nairobi, Kenya. Third round of talks. First was held in Pretoria, South Africa at the end of October. Second was held in the second week of November in Nairobi, Kenya. And now third round is going to start in Nairobi, Kenya. Uhuru Kenyatta, former Kenyan president, is there. A GAD representative there. African Union representative there. Obasanjo could be there too. Delegations from Tigray and from Ethiopian federal government sides have arrived in Nairobi. Talks will be held for 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And on Friday or Saturday, a statement will be released, hopefully. Talks are being held behind closed doors. No one knows what is going to be discussed. But obviously, implementation of peace deal is going to be discussed. Key issues are still unresolved. Disarmament of TPLF combatants, Tigray fighters, withdrawal of Eritrean military, Amhara forces. The issues have not been resolved so far. Resumption of banking service, slow, very slow. Restoration of basic services is very slow in Tigray. Delivery of aid to Tigray, again slow, needs are much more than delivery. So several issues are to be discussed. We'll try to update you in coming videos within the next 2 days about what is being discussed in Nairobi, Kenya. Though it is difficult to get information because the parties don't disclose anything in advance or during talks. That is what we saw in Pretoria and Nairobi, Kenya in 2 previous sessions. Let's hope, let's pray that the 2 sides agree on a smooth implementation of the peace deal. Several issues pending. A fragile peace deal needs to be reinforced by major confidence building measures. Things are happening but slow. Implementation is extremely slow, leading to apprehension that the deal could collapse if there is no speedy implementation. Secondly, viewers, in Addis Ababa, Ethiopian capital, backed by Ethiopian federal government, some efforts are underway to bring about a political change in Tigray. PP party wants to create an alternative political force in Tigray to challenge the TPLF's political power there. Abraham Bale, former interim head of Tigray's administration and now serving as Ethiopian defense minister, is spearheading this effort. His Tigrayan 3-day long meetings were held in Addis Ababa with participation of Tigrayan youth and Tigrayan scholars. An 8-point statement was issued after these meetings. 8-point consensus has been created for a political change, peaceful political change in Tigray. The 8-point statement backs the Pretoria and Nairobi deals, and it urges TPLF to support Ethiopian federal government's efforts for peace and stability in the region. At the same time, Abraham Bale in his speech called for peaceful change, diversity of ideas in Tigray. Obviously, he is being he's being launched by Ethiopian federal government to bring about some sort of political change in Tigray. Can he do that? That remains to be seen. But now it's very clear that the 3-day long discussions were meant to create some alternative political force in Tigray. Addis Ababa backed political parties were formed in the past as well. But the parties could not gain ground in Tigray. It would be difficult for any outside force to gain ground in Tigray. But if peace deal is implemented, an interim setup is put in place in Tigray, then we could see Addis Ababa backed factions gain ground in Tigray, because interim government obviously will ensure level playing field for all political forces. So in that case, we could see this Abraham Bale led political movement gaining some foothold in Tigray. So far, TPLF is the main political power, political force in Tigray. It's not ready even to accommodate opposition parties like Batona, Salsivajene and TIP, and these parties complain that TPLF takes solo flights. It does not take them on board. But in case of putting in place of an interim setup, we could see some political change in Tigray. That is why these meetings are being held, because in coming days, weeks, there could be announcement of an interim setup in Tigray. An interim setup will have the backing of Addis Ababa government as well, Ethiopian federal government. In that case, we could see a change in Tigray. But let's see. Thirdly, viewers, in October, in Djibouti, we know that a camp of Djibouti's military was attacked in govt on Djibouti-Ethiopia border by FRUD. Front for Restoration of Unity and Democracy is an armed group operating in Djibouti for decades. A political party also exists by this name, but this group split with the party and chose to launch armed resistance in Djibouti, mainly from Afar ethnic group. The group attacked Djibouti's military camp in October, I think the 6th of October, and 7 soldiers of Djibouti's army were killed in their attack, and 6 were taken hostage by FRUD fighters. FRUD fighters confirmed that they had taken hostage 6 soldiers of Djibouti's army, and they laid out some conditions for the release of these soldiers. They demanded the release of their comrades. There are some allegedly political prisoners, and some other actions they demanded from Djibouti's government. And they offered to release Djibouti's soldiers. Djibouti's government sought support from Ethiopia. We saw top level Djibouti delegations visiting Ethiopia. I did several videos on that. Delegation comprising Djibouti's military officers, intelligence agency officers. They held meeting in Addis Ababa, Ethiopian capital. They met with Ridwan Hussein. And then Ridwan Hussein visited a far region of Ethiopia. If you remember, back then I said the meeting of Ridwan with Afar leadership in Afar was linked to efforts for the release of Djibouti's soldiers. Now it has been confirmed that Ethiopian government played a key role in the release of Djibouti's soldiers. Today, Ethiopian Foreign Ministry officials in a public statement confirmed that Ethiopian intelligence agency, Ethiopian National Defense Force, Afar government, Afar forces, they played a key role in the release, peaceful release of Djibouti's soldiers. So 6 soldiers of Djibouti's army have been released by FRUD and handed over to Djibouti's government. Question is, it means that does Ethiopia have influence on FRUD, or does FRUD have its basis in Ethiopia? FRUD is a Afar ethnic group, from Afar ethnic group, and there is a Afar region in Ethiopia. I said, if you remember, in some videos that Afar regional government could play a role, and Afars of Djibouti, Afars of FRUD, obviously they have links, and that is why Ethiopia played a role. But since it's a peaceful release, it means that FRUD might have gained something in return, not being made public. There could be release of some FRUD fighters in Djibouti, but not made public. Overall, the issue will be resolved peacefully, though Djibouti's government labeled FRUD the terrorist outfit. Djibouti's parliament after the kidnapping of Djibouti's soldiers.